the Champ is here for some recoil management tips. I want to go over a few things, and then I'll get in game and show a few sprays and how we can manage them a little bit. All right, the first thing you got to do is you need a gaming mouse and a large mouse pad. I recommend the HyperX brand if you're on a budget for entry-level gear. All right, if you're looking for something more expensive, there are tons of lists on Google of the best 10 mice and mouse pads. So I would recommend checking them out. I personally use a Logitech G903. For a long time I used a G403. Unfortunately it broke on me, but I like that mouse very much too. I'm a big fan of wireless mice. So I personally recommend spending the extra money to not have to deal with the wires. The second thing we're going to go over is recoil management. If you look at any of the lists of pro players, most of them play in the range of 400 to 800 DPI, so I would recommend trying to get yourself somewhere into that range. I personally play at 700 DPI. I know that a lot of more casual players play at much higher DPIs, even up to 2000 DPI. Okay, you want to get into the habit of using your entire arm to aim. Not just small wrist movements like when you're using an extreme DPI. Now, if you are using a high DPI, what I would recommend is each time you load up the game, okay, take your DPI setting down by 50 until you get to the 800 DPI. It'll be an adjustment period, but if you do it in small increments, it will feel better than just dropping your DPI by 1,000 points immediately. So I'd recommend working your way down until you're into a comfortable range of DPI setting, and it might take a month or so, but it will definitely be beneficial to you long term if you get yourself into a DPI range that is a little bit more conducive to being successful in FPS games. The last thing I want to talk about before we go in game is hand positioning on the mouse pad, okay? You do not want to keep your mouse low on the pad, because what winds up happening is recoil in PUBG is vertical, mostly only. And if your mouse is in the middle or low on the pad, you're going to wind up dragging to the end of the mouse pad, and then you won't be able to control your recoil anymore. I leave my hand about, I'd say 75% up towards the top of my mouse pad. I'm assuming this will vary with certain players depending on their DPI setting, but you want to get used to having your mouse hand high on the pad so that you have a long distance to be able to drag down for extended fights. Alright, so let's get in queue, and then I will be back in a minute or two with some gear, and we'll shoot some walls or something. Alright, so now I got a gun, I got some ammo, and let's go over recoil really quick. If you notice with, let me use the AK actually. If you notice with PUBG, a lot of times the recoil is all vertical, so I'm going to use no recoil control. You couldn't hear me, I said I'm going to use no recoil control, and the bullets are going straight up. Okay, so remember I said to keep your mouse up high on the mouse pad. So now I'm going to drag down at a consistent rate while I'm shooting. And you notice I get a much tighter pack of bullets, and this is with no compensator or anything. I'm just consistently dragging down. Alright, now standing. Alright. And then we'll do a few with the vector. You notice the same thing. Goes straight up to the sky. Did I hear someone? I don't know. Alright, so then if I want to control it, we'll do it standing first. I'm pulling straight down to get a tighter pattern. If I crouch, which you'll see me do in a lot of games, you get an even tighter pattern. So again, the key to controlling the recoil is, since it goes straight up, you need to pull straight down at a consistent rate. Shooting at the wall is pretty easy. Doing it under duress and consistently under duress is the hard part. So we're going to talk about how to get better about that. And a lot of people just say practice. Practice is great, but focus is practice is how you get better. So I would take, for the next week or so, when you drop, your only focus is that you are going to be working on spraying people full auto. So that means, okay, the person is the distance from this to the house to here, which is your normal, I guess, full auto range for most people. You full auto them. But now, what if the person is the distance of that house? A lot of people want to tap fire. Okay, but we're not going to do that if we're practicing on our spray or range. We're going to work on pulling down, and what might happen is, I'm almost at ammo here. What might happen is, you know, you see a guy, okay, and you lose the recoil and go up to his head or whatever, and you miss him, and then, you know, he kills you or whatever, but that's why we're practicing it, okay? So, try to get out of the habit in that medium range of doing this, and let's just, we see someone at a medium range, full auto him, see what happens, okay? And as you feel a little bit more confident than that, I wish I had AK ammo. So what if we see someone at the fence? We take crouch, we get our time, say he's standing still rather than tapping him. Let's take a risk, okay? And let's try to pull down on the mouse and see if we can hit him. As again, go up there and potato him, which is fun. Right before I drop, let's just go over some spots quick where I like to focus practice. I would avoid jumping on the center building of Boot Camp, Paradise, or Ruins, as they're a little more RNG, and you know, it doesn't give you time to kind of get settled in and focus on what you want to work on. It's just a scramble for guns and shooting. So this right here, these three warehouses, is my favorite spot to drop on Sandhawk. The reason I like it is because you usually get maybe 2 to 3 other people, and you can also see where they're going to be landing, so you have a clear indication of where everyone is. So after you get a gun, you can either focus on pushing them or shoot across the warehouses. It's also not as congested as being in those buildings, so you have a little bit of room to work with. I also like these warehouses right over here. If it's on the path to the plane, you usually get another person or two. Also, it's a nice little fight because usually everyone just goes to one of the warehouses, gets guns, and then you have a little bit of time and room to work with. The other spots I like here, if it's not too close to the plane, the docks is a good fight. Again, it's kind of warehousey, so you have a little bit of room to work with. And I like any of the camps. Okay, if you're working on recoil, I would avoid the big cities with lots of buildings, as a lot of times it's just a camp fest inside buildings, and then someone sprays someone when they hear them coming up the stairs. It says I'm dropping to re-summarize everything. If you're working on recoil management, first thing is get good gear. Second thing, get yourself in a decent DPI setting, so make sure your gear and settings are on point. Make sure you focus your practice, drop in areas that are conducive to actually learning, not just dying immediately. And then make sure you're dragging your mouse down in a pretty consistent speed, and you will get better with your recoil management. The most important thing is to focus your practice. By spraying at the enemy. Okay. Oh, shoot. And I'm out of ammo. Fuck.